Yeah.
Okay.
My game that I have chosen as the best of show. Uh, when we first saw it, we all had a reaction to it. You know, very kind of almost visceral reaction to it. And I said, you know, oh, that's a heavy game. While we were watching the Latin American showcase. Um, and I talked about it after that showcase, or a little bit during the showcase, that you know, watching all these games where we're seeing a lot of Mexican history or Latin American history and just stuff from culture in Latin America. This one sat with me afterwards because it's stuff like Mexico 1921. We're like, oh, I didn't know that happened in history, and you get to learn about it through a video game, which is great. But that game, you know, as much as I love to see it, it's not a game for me really. Like I love to watch someone play, not for me to play. But this one sat with me afterwards just because it's a little bit heavier. It's a little bit a little bit gruesome, a little bit brutal. And that's to me like that's kind of how history is. So the game that I chose that sat with me way after um the show had ended, and I had a short list of games, but I was like, this one I really want to support just because it does come from my country of origin, and it does talk about some things that not a lot of people like to talk about, just because it is very controversial and very, you know, kind of divisive. But that game is,
Bam.
you know, the War in Chiapas. So this is done self-published by a team called Band Price. So it is mainly two people, Paco Rodriguez and Julieta Medina. Paco does the game design, the animation, the writer, and the producer, while Julieta is an artist and an animator. Um, so this one stuck with me just because it does follow you take control of a small group of rebels who go into the mountains of Chiapas and kind of help the people out in this one and fight against a paramilitary group that has kind of taken a foothold in Chiapas, and they're not having it. It is a stealth game that focuses on action and strategy. You'll see from some of the trailer here that you're kind of building an army of yourself, of rebels, to fight back. And this is very much inspired by true events that happened in Chiapas and kind of still ongoing, you know, to a much lesser extent. If anyone knows any Mexican history, it is kind of based off the Ejército Zapatista de Liberación Nacional, which is for ELZN for short, which is what more people know it by, or like Zapatista Army, which is obviously inspired by Emiliano Zapata, who was a Mexican revolutionary. Um, this takes place in the 90s, which is kind of when the Chiapas conflict happened. But yeah, so this stuck out with me. The group, uh, more so into present day, is very much about fighting against the patriarchy, and very much a huge advocate for women's rights. So that's, you know, something that I would also like to support. So it's great to see that. The gameplay itself in this game is very much not only just the stealth action, but also team management. If you want to pull up some of those screenshots, Nate. Um, so you are technically building an army. So you can see here, it's all in Spanish, but you are basically giving people roles, like what they are. Like there, you have the engineer, the infantry, infiltration, medic, who you're bringing to these things. If you want to go to the next one. So you can see here also during the gameplay, you can be, you know, at a standoff with the paramilitary. You can see there on the right, you can give up, you can make some noise for your team, you can listen to what they're saying, you can radio in for backup, or there's lots of different ways to kind of tackle a situation while you're, you know, these very stressful conflicts with these people. It looks like they're like, we have one of their soldiers prisoners, and we're in a very much with the in a standoff with them. So here you can clearly see kind of your current roster of people and like what they're good at. Just quickly going down the list of like their health, their talent, their kind of like their strength, and their velocity, their stamina. It's like all of their stats that you can build out your roster of who you want to bring into these missions with you. As we saw from the trailer earlier, like it's very brutal, very, you know, no sugarcoat. There's no like, oh, 6 times combo, you know, you're a great killing machine. Like this is just like you're in a very, you know, depressing situation. let's see what's the next screenshot there.
Yeah.
Aside from that, the very pretty 2D, 8-bit or 16-bit graphics, there is very character art for a lot of these people. Here, like, it's basically like you're speaking to this person, and what a lot of this game focuses on is helping the people of your community. So that also grants you people that will join your resistance and join your rebels and give you information because you're helping them out. If you want to go next. So here, obviously you can see on the top left, you have your crew there that you can switch between, and you can kind of see them sneaking into a paramilitary compound to do whatever they're going to do. And as you can see from here, very much inspired by. I was talking about the devs. I was talking to Fern and Nate about the devs because even Hideo Kojima retweeted this game. And it made me love the devs even more because they had replied to it and were saying that they're very much inspired by Hideo Kojima and the Metal Gear Solid series, which this is, clearly very inspired by. So you can see there, there's the codex screen from the Metal Gear Solid series. So, it just kind of fit the bill for me. But yeah, so that's my pick for this. It is two devs out of Mexico City. And I want to fully support them. They're a great team, discussing things that no one wants to talk about that happened in history, still ongoing, that more people need to know about.
Yeah, I mean, it's again probably my ignorance, probably the American education system. But there's like I said that about Mexico 1921, and then now this one, like I'm vaguely aware of things, but not like the nitty gritty. And I think that's one of those things that is underrated in gaming, is the ability to literally step into the shoes, literally live out these things. I think what was so shocking about this was what we saw was really cool. It looked like it was the trailer in here. I'll go back to that. It's still playing. There you go. We'll have that.
Yeah, the song
the soundtrack
from it is just beautiful.
Give that moment in spotlight. I didn't realize it was muted. What we saw here, it was like, oh, this looks like it's kind of like a cinematic adventure, in pixel art, But then, like you said, when you looked into it, and then when I, was able to see it too, I was like, oh, this is like an RPG almost. There's, obviously the stealth, but then there's like each character has their pluses and minuses and stats, like just on the gameplay level, right? Like it's so interesting to me. And then you weigh in the heavy and important, recreation of historical events here. And it just makes it all the more interesting. Yeah, that I was just gonna say that shot of I only have one bullet, and so like putting those stakes on you, putting that tension, right? Like I think the stealth games are built around tension, but like now like in something like this where you can so much more buy into the mission, right? You can so much more buy into the stakes of what you're fighting for here. It ratchets up that tension more and more and more while you're, desperately trying to help your fellow man and get people out of here. And, I just appreciate being able to like, appropriately depict the brutal nature of some of these situations that people, like you said, don't talk about, want to ignore. Obviously hits very hard as things are happening across the world right now, like you said it, and on top of that, right, you said it's kind of still happening in this conflict. And so like it's never, the sad part is some of this stuff never really ends, like. And so like the more awareness that there is, the more chance, that's something will be done. And so super excited.
And like I was saying, like everyone needs their moment in spotlight. Like seeing the Latin American showcase like really made me happy, and seeing stuff like even like Nate being excited from the Mexico 1921 bit. Oh, I didn't know about that in history. And like me, being a very heavy Mexican, culture. Like I was like, oh yeah, you know, I've seen that, or my parents have talked about that because they lived through it or whatever it is. It's exciting, and it's almost like emotional to like have people share your culture and see all of that and be like, oh, I'm excited about that too, or oh, I want to learn about that. So yeah, like you want to share that with everyone. Even stuff like this, like that's not too much of a happy story or not too much of an exciting story as it is just like a story that needs to be told. Just for more understanding. So I'm super happy with the representation, and I hope more people play this game.
Yeah. I think you, like you said, right, with our parents, right? Like I think something that's so interesting about this is I don't know if you feel the same way, but I definitely was with Supot. Hopefully one day it comes out. But like like when you see a game that does represent your culture, it's like I was so excited by the concept of sitting down with my mom and playing that game and like sharing in that experience of the joy of my gaming, the joy of our culture, our shared culture, you know, and seeing it depicted in this format, this thing that, you know, I love. Yeah, it's representation is so important, and fuck anyone who complains about, oh, but, you know, why is this person in this game? Why? It's so stupid. It's just bringing more voices to the table, bringing more voices in is so exciting all the time, and that's why we love Latin American games. That's why we love women-led games. Yeah. Fern, we've yapped quite a bit. Do you have anything here for the war in Chiapas?
Just that generally, you know, I really respect when a game that's sort of, you know, stealth or military focused is more on that critical side and like handling like a conflict with respect, you know what I mean? I definitely like appreciate and respect those types of games more than sort of glorifying violence ones, even though they can be fun. You know, we play Fortnite, whatever, but
Doom look cool.
Doom look pretty cool.
Like it's just a lot easier for me to buy into it, especially like having a story that feels like it has a little more heft. So yeah, definitely this one caught my eye too.
Shout out to the war in Chiapas. Fish's best of Summer Game Fest.